Hey everyone, it's Carissa Wiley at sprinkledwithglitter.com. Thanks for joining me today. Today I am sharing the not so basic guide to foiling. Now, if you've been around for a while, you might remember my essential guide to foiling, and I'm going to link that in a card right here. Today I'm going to go a step beyond that, and I am sharing a not so basic guide to foiling. So we're going to step up our projects, and I'm going to be featuring the Essentials by Ellen Essential Shape Hot Foil Stamps. Now, these are available in several different shapes, and each set of these shapes comes with 2 backers full of these hot foil plates. Now, these are designed to coordinate with the Essential Shape dies from the Essentials by Ellen line. So you can see I have the hot foil shapes on the right-hand side and the coordinating dies on the left-hand side. Now, I wanted to give you an up-close look at these. Here I am pointing to the hot foil stamp. You're going to notice that there is a large flat metal area, and that's the part that foils. Now, this die, on the other hand, has 2 very fine cutting lines. Now, you can foil with the dies, but you are going to get much more foiled area with the hot foil stamp because there's a lot of flat area to press the foil onto the cardstock. Whereas with the die, you're going to have just those 2 little fine lines of area that foil. Now you're going to notice that each one of these shapes is designed to coordinate with the die. So I have the hot foil rectangle right there in the center, and you can see how it nestles into that die. That gives you so many options because you can cut both the outside and the inside of all of these shapes, and all of the essential shapes work the same way. So these hot foil stamps are available in the essential arches. They're available in the essential circles, the essential stars, the essential rectangles, which we already had a look at, the essential ovals, the essential squares, and then finally the essential hexagons. So all of these have not only hot foil stamps available, but also the coordinating dies. Now, I'll be briefly showing the press plate in this video as well. And if you have not checked out the How to Use the Essentials by Ellen press plate video, I'll put a card in the upper right-hand corner right now so that you can check that out and get some more detailed instructions on how to use that. Now today, to do all of my foiling, I'm using the Spellbinders Glimmer Hot Foil machine along with the Spellbinders Platinum 6 die cutting machine. But you can use whatever die cutting and foiling machine that you have to make this work. I am just featuring this one today. I don't feature it very often here on the Essentials by Ellen YouTube channel, so I just wanted to give you a look at this one in action. But nevertheless, all the foiling principles, whether you're using the Glimmer machine or another machine, the principles stay the same. You just need to be familiar with your machine and the sandwiches you need to create to do your foiling. Now, I started by foiling these sentiments. These are the Way with Words hot foil sentiment plate. It is all one plate. And the cool thing is that once you foiled this large hot foil plate, you can line up the sentiment strips die with those foiled sentiments and run that through your die cutting machine, and you have a bunch of hot foiled sentiments ready to go. Now, for all of my projects today, I am using the Glimmer Prism foil, and I think that is such a beautiful iridescent foil. But let's get into the not so basic part of this foiling. I am going to be doing some hot foil stamping on acetate. And so I have my Tiny Stars background there on my Glimmer platform. I'm adding my foil with the pretty side facing the pattern of my hot foil plate. And then I'm adding a piece of Essentials by Ellen clear plastic. And then I have my shim and my spacer plate that come with the Glimmer, and I'm putting that on top. Now, I did set the timer on my Glimmer machine and allowed that to process through that timer before I removed this and ran it through my Platinum 6. And look at these beautiful results that I got. I have all those iridescent shiny stars on that acetate. So don't be afraid to experiment with different types of mediums that you might have in your stash. Now I have one of the essential rectangles, and I am taping it onto a piece of Concord and Ninth white cardstock, and I'm creating a hinge. And you're going to see here, I almost messed up the way that I put my foil onto this, but I corrected myself. before I closed up this little hinge. That hinge just allows me to position the rectangle exactly where I want it on this panel and then run it through my hot foil machine. So you can see I'm just hinging it up on the tape and sliding the foil underneath, making sure that I have the pretty side touching the pattern of the hot foil plate. And then I created my sandwich. I hit my timer button. And once that's done, the light by the timer will go solid and you'll know that your hot foil plate is hot enough to run through your die cutting machine and get great foiled results. So I'm going to show you what that looks like here. Now, one thing I do want to mention is that with hot foiling, paper is important. Just like with other mediums, watercolor or Copic markers, you want to make sure you're using the right paper for the job. And I'm going to tell you that the Concord & Ninth smooth white cardstock is fabulous for hot foil stamping. So if you haven't tried that and you're not getting great results in your foiling, I would recommend changing up the paper that you're using. And the first place I would start would be this Concord & Ninth white cardstock. Now you can see I used my Platinum 6 and I lined up this essential rectangle die and I die cut the center of that rectangle out. And now I have this foiled frame that I can create a shaker window with. So I'm flipping over this frame. I'm adding some double-sided tape to the back of it. And I am going to adhere this acetate that I have those tiny hot foil stars onto the back of that frame. And that's going to create a beautiful shaker window for an invitation that I'm creating. So now I wanted to add a little pattern to the background of my shaker. So I have a piece of blush cardstock here, and I'm using the Swirl background stamp from the Essentials by Ellen line along with the Concord & Ninth Ballet Slipper ink. And I'm stamping this onto this blush colored cardstock. That's just going to give that fun pattern. Now I will add my foam adhesive to the back of my frame. This is going to give this frame a little bit of lift and allow the shaker guts that I'm going to put inside of my shaker to shake around nicely. Now, when I place this foam adhesive on the back of my shaker frame, I'm making sure that the foam pieces touch each other so that all of the things that I'm putting inside of my shaker will not leak out. Now for my filler today, or my shaker guts as I like to call them, I am using some iridescent stars from High Supply as well as some clay sprinkle embellishments from Pretty Pink Posh. I will have those linked in the YouTube description below, and I've just sprinkled those onto that backer that I stamped and created, and then I placed my frame over the top. Now this is going to be an invitation. So I am using the Celebrate Hot Foiled sentiment and I'm placing it right there in the center of my shaker window. And then I took this entire panel and adhered it to a top folding A2 size white card base. So that invitation features an all over shaker frame window, but I wanted to teach you how to make kind of a standalone shaker element. And these are great for creating tags or cards. And for this, I'm using the Essential Circles hot foil shapes. And once again, I'm using that beautiful prism foil from Spellbinders. And with the Essential shapes, I'm finding that if I add a cardstock shim to the middle of my sandwich between the spacer pad and the shim, that I get better results. So I have that paper shim placed between those two pads that come with the glimmer machine. And I've ran that through my die cut machine. And now you can see I have this beautiful foiled circle. Now I'm going to find the Essential Circle dies that kind of will cut both the center out of this circle as well as the outer edge of that circle. So I'm just kind of experimenting. I guess I could have counted them, but I found the correct one and I went ahead and I adhered that into the center, ran that through my die cutting machine, and now you can see I have a window. Now I could create a shaker out of this panel, but like I said, I want to create a standalone shaker element. So I can either attach it to a card or use it as a tag. Now take note of where I'm placing my tape each time I position a die and hold it in place. I'm making sure that the tape is not overlapping the foiled area because I don't want to take the risk of that tape pulling up any of my foil. Even though it's pressed on there pretty well and it stays in place, it's pretty durable. I don't want to do anything that's going to add some sticky gunk to my foil or anything like that. Now I took that larger circle die and I also die cut a piece of blush colored cardstock, and I'm die cutting with that large circle another piece of acetate that I foiled with the tiny stars background. I think the foiled acetate is so much fun. Now, here is where I use the press plate to create my own foiled cardstock that will coordinate with my shaker window. Now, I didn't show you the process in this video, but if you want to see how that's done, be sure to check out the How to Use the Essentials by Ellen press plate video over at the ellenhudson.com YouTube channel so that you can see that press plate in action and get a bunch of ideas for using that in your crafting. Now, from that holographic cardstock that I created with my prism foil and the Ellen Hudson press plate, I die cut the Yes sentiment from the Essentials by Ellen line. Such a fun sentiment and a little bit different. And I have that waiting for me there. And on the back of this circle shaker window, I'm adding some foam adhesive. And you might notice that I'm able to just form that foam adhesive around that circle shape. That's because I've removed both backers from the foam adhesive, and that makes it very pliable to where I can shape it around this circle. Now I added my shaker guts to that circle, and then I adhered my frame over the top to trap all of those beautiful sparkly and colorful bits. And for this sentiment, I'm going to go ahead and back it with a couple of plain white die cuts to give it a little bit of heft and weight and some dimension on my card front. Now I'm going to take this shaker element and I'm going to create a card out of this, but I'm going to keep the rest of the card really simple. I'm just going to emboss a piece of white cardstock using the Optic Arches embossing folder from Spellbinders. Now, before I place my white cardstock into the embossing folder, I'm just wiping it with a baby wipe. That's going to soften up the fibers of this cardstock. And when I position this in the embossing folder and run it through my embossing machine, I'm going to avoid a lot of cracking and warping. And I'll show you the benefit of that in just a moment. So I am using the Spellbinders Universal Plate System. I am using the Platform A along with the Platform Topper B. And then I have my embossing folder with the cardstock and then the C cutting plate, and I've run that through my die cutting machine. And you can see I have this really cool embossed image. Now the one on the right, I did not use the baby wipe on, and I have quite a bit of cracking and warping. But this one on the left, I did use the baby wipe before embossing it, and it stayed much flatter, and I avoided all of the cracking that I got in my first go around. So as I finish off this project and the next project, I'm going to go ahead and just talk to you about 5 essentials, things that I think you must have when you venture into the foiling world. And the first thing you're going to need is a foiling system that works for you. So there's a couple of them on the market, but you need to choose the one that works best with your die cutting machine. So if you are a Spellbinders Platinum 6 user, you're going to want to pick up the Glimmer machine because that one's going to work best. If you are a Gemini Junior user, there is the Gemini foil press available for that machine as well. Keep in mind that the principles of foiling stay the same no matter what platform you're using. Just some of the elements like the spacer pad might be just slightly different, but you're always going to place your foil with the pretty side facing the pattern of your foil plate, and you're always going to just run it through to add the pressure and press that foil onto the cardstock. Now, we kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, but the next thing that you need is a great cardstock for foiling. And as I mentioned, I am really in love with the Concord and Ninth white cardstock for hot foil stamping. It works so beautifully. It has such a smooth finish and a nice weight to it. And I'm finding great results when I foil on that cardstock. I also recommend picking up a couple of foils in your favorite colors. This prism foil is a great holographic silver. There are several foils available from different brands. I do really prefer personally the Spellbinders brand of foils. I think they foil beautifully, and the champagne color is a beautiful soft gold that I find myself reaching for over and over again. And I also really love the opal foil if you've never tried that out. I think the press plate is a great addition to add to your stash as well. It allows you to do reverse foiling and create your own custom foiled cardstock. And finally, some great hot foil plates like the Essentials by Ellen Essential Shapes are great to have in your stash. So there you have it, 3 projects today. These are like a party in a project. I have an invitation there, a card that's perfect for a party, and finally that little star shake tag. All of these are shakers, and it was so easy to create those foiled frames using the Essential Shape hot foil stamps along with the coordinating dies. I think this is a great way to kind of maximize your dies as well as maximize your hot foil plates when you have those dies and hot foil plates that work in conjunction together. Now, as always, I will have links to the featured products used in these projects in the YouTube description. So if you're looking for something in particular, be sure you check there, or you can head on over to the coordinating blog post. I will have that linked below as well. Over there, you'll find more still shots, more information, and a complete list of supplies. Thank you so much for stopping by and watching today. I hope you enjoyed these projects. If you did, be sure to give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notifications here on this YouTube channel so you don't miss any of our paper crafting and card making video tutorials shared here. Leave me a comment below and let me know which of these 3 projects is your favorite. And if you loved this video, I would love it if you would share it with a friend. Thanks again for stopping by. Thanks for watching. And until next time, I hope you have a fabulous day.